let us all do we can to build a better future. All right, folks. Something big happened yesterday. New York City nurses are stepping up. Shout out to Roger Meadows, who brought this to my attention, and also shout out to Case Study QB, who is still wrongly being censored on Twitter. Mind you, he does have a blue check mark, and he also pays for the ability to do longer videos on Twitter. But for some reason, Twitter wants to keep him, I guess, deemed as a questionable account, even though all what he's posting is video links from CNN, from MSNBC, from Fox News. I don't know how he sits through it. That's a miracle upon itself. But Case Studies QB is still being censored, so please support his YouTube channel. Please support him on Odyssey. But without further ado, let's talk about what's happening with the nurse strike that's happening in New York City. May we see more of it.
Happening right now, more than 7,000 nurses in New York are on strike after negotiations with two of the city's largest hospitals there failed. Tentative deals have been reached in recent days, covering nurses at several other hospitals in the area.
Talks with Mount Sinai Hospital on the Upper East Side of Manhattan and at 3 locations of the Montefiore Medical Center in the Bronx, though, failed overnight. Joining us now is Nancy Hagans, president of the New York State Nurses Association. Nancy, good to see you this morning. So, Mount Sinai is saying here that union leadership walked out of the negotiations overnight. They said they proposed a 19.1% wage increase, which a number of other hospitals agreed to. What more do you need this morning, Nancy, to end this strike?
Well, first of all, I don't mean to cut her off, but here's the thing. A lot of these nurses and first responders were treated like absolute crap in 2020 and after 2020. A lot of these first responders went above and beyond the call of duty. A lot of these nurses did too. And many of them, especially in New York State, were fired because they refused to get vaccinated, and among a few other issues too. The thing is, they deserve a lot. An increase in pay, an increase in benefits. They are putting themselves on the front line. They deserve a lot more. They're entitled to a lot more. And that's the truth of it.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. From the beginning of a negotiation, it was never about wages. It was always about safe patient care. And Mount Sinai know that what we need from them is proper nurse-to-patient ratios, is proper enforcement for staffing. And it's really something to hear that all they focus on is wages. As nurses, when we go to work, we want to provide safe, quality care to our patients. At this stage, we do not have that commitment from Mount Sinai Medical Center as well as Montefiore Medical Center. That is one of the reasons that we are where we are right now.
You mentioned the nurse.
Now, again, she brought up a lot of good points here too. Well, number one, nurse safety. All right. Now, right off the bat, their protection and safety is needed. They deserve it. I'll go a step further, and I'm going to say this too. They do deserve an increase in pay. They do. And I know she said in the beginning, like that's not the case. But I think we all can agree, after everything these nurses have gone through, these 7,000 nurses have gone through, they deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. After all the trial and tribulations, after all the loss, they're entitled. They deserve it. This isn't a debate. This isn't a conversation. They deserve it. They deserve it.
The patient ratio, which we know is crucial to these negotiations. The number of vacancies, as we understand it, have been high throughout the pandemic, going back 2-3 years now. And I wonder, is it difficult to fill these positions? Is that one of the issues?
Gee, corporate media jagoff, maybe in case you didn't realize it, maybe you could report on a little bit more, but how the government was handling the crisis with the pandemic in 2020 was an absolute crap show. I mean, the media could have done its job by actually holding state and federal government officials accountable for how they've effectively abandoned the American people and left us to fend for ourselves. But, hey, trust CNN, the only news outlet to lose $250 million and wasted on a streaming service that only survived for 1 month. Even Coke 2 and Clear Pepsi went out with more integrity than CNN Plus, and that's not saying a lot.
Well, that is our concern. Our concern, we would like to have a fair contract where we could really attract and retain great nurses. If you have to go to work in a condition where on a daily that you have to work short, you are asked to care for 20 patients in the emergency room where the ratio should be 3. So a lot of our nurses have walked away from the
Apologies for that.
daily that you have to work short. You are asked to care for 20 patients in the emergency room where the ratio should be 3. So a lot of our nurses have walked away from the
Apologies, we lost the audio in this video, so I'm going to fast forward just a little bit.
They leave those unfilled.
We've been working in those conditions way before the pandemic. And after the pandemic, management decided to freeze a lot of these positions, and they never posted the position. You look at a place at Montefiore Medical Center, they have over 710 positions open. Mount Sinai, 500 position open. Nurses will not want to work every day and have to carry 3 times the amount of the load. After a while, it's not only physically toxic, but it's mentally toxic. And we want to be able to deliver patient care. And meanwhile, this hospital made a lot of profits. The CEO of those 2 hospitals have made the 7-figure over the past couple of years. And what we're asking them is to invest in our communities, invest into the nurses, so we could deliver safe patient care to our patients. Our communities deserve better. New Yorkers deserve better.
Are you worried, for instance, right now we're showing a list of things that have to happen during this strike, including babies transferred from natal intensive care units. Cancer patients have to move to find their treatment elsewhere. Are you worried about the impact on patients while the strike continues?
Okay, now here's the thing. This is a tactic that corporate media likes to do. The establishment or organizations that don't like strikes or unions or worker co-ops, they're quick to do the guilt. Like, oh, aren't you worried? Aren't you worried? The thing is, yes, they are worried. These nurses are professionals, all right? They're caretakers. But the thing is, they've been working in unsafe conditions before the pandemic. They've been stepped on, abused, their rights, their benefits has always been squeezed away from them, taken away from them. And they've been slapped around by a system that doesn't care whether they live or die. So the thing is, I want my nurses to be at 100%. I want them to work in safe conditions, as probably do all their patients too. And I'm pretty sure all their patients want to make sure these nurses, these caretakers, these first responders are taken care of properly and they're being paid properly. They got a lot of benefits to take care of their families. Because let's face it, living in New York City, working in New York City, it ain't cheap, CNN. Maybe you should do an investigation onto why, so many millions of Americans are struggling day in, day out. Oh, wait. Probably going to waste more money on another streaming service.
The hospital management have created the crisis. We gave them a 10-day notice on December 30th. The reason we gave them the 10 days was we were giving them the opportunity to either fix the problem by coming to the table and negotiate a fair contract or make proper arrangement. The fact that management decided not to come to the table and have a fair contract, they have failed the community. They have failed the patients.
Well, Nancy Hagans, anybody who's had family members as I have had long-term care in a hospital knows how important nurses are to their care. So we thank you for taking the time this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, okay. But obviously, you think CNN's going to look further into how these hospitals have been treating its workers? No, CNN won't do that. This right now is something that just caught CNN's attention. And of course, they're going to talk about it, but they're not going to really address the main issue. And that is the fact that we live in a system where it's expensive to be poor and cheap to be rich. And these nurses are doing everything they can to make sure that their patients are taken care of. It's the hospitals and the administrations that's been running them that created that crisis, not the nurses. The nurses didn't wake up one day and said, oh, gee, how are we just going to just cause a ruckus and ruin everything because everything's all hunky-dory here? Oh, wait, no, it's not. It's the administration that's been doing that to the nurses. And so obviously the nurses aren't only doing this for themselves, they're doing this also for their patients too. We live in the richest country in the world, and honestly, healthcare, medicine, treatment, it's only reserved if you have money.
Management wants to meet. Let's hear it for you all. Are we powerful? Are we one union? Are we med-surg? Are we ICU? Are we nurse practitioners? Are we EDs? Are we the OR? Are we PACU? Are we pediatrics? Are we nurses? Can this hospital run without us? Do our patients need us? Do we need safe staffing? Do we need our contract to be honored? Should Montefiore close clinics when patients need primary care? Should Montefiore shutter nurse family partnership and maternal child health programs when we have mothers who are dying? Should our ERs be mercilessly overcrowded? Should our patients be in hallways? Is that why we're out here? All right, I need some.
We're going to play that again. You know, maybe CNN should be playing that video too, because I want all of you to hear why they're fighting. Okay, it's more than just money, but in my opinion, I think number one, they do deserve a pay raise and more benefits. That's just my opinion, because it's a little extra sugar. But here, let's hear again why they're striking again. And it turns out it's just not for them; it's for their patients.
Management wants to meet. Let's hear it for you all. Are we powerful? Are we one union? Are we med-surg? Are we ICU? Are we nurse practitioners? Are we EDs? Are we the OR? Are we PACU? Are we pediatrics? Are we nurses? Can this hospital run without us? Do our patients need us? Do we need safe staffing? Do we need our contract to be honored? Should Montefiore close clinics when patients need primary care? Should Montefiore shutter nurse family partnership and maternal child health programs when we have mothers who are dying? Should our ERs be mercilessly overcrowded? Should our patients be in hallways? Is that why we're out here? All right, I need some.
That's why they're fighting. That's why they're fighting. And I ask everyone to please stand in solidarity with them. Shout out to Case Study QB, who was able to find that video. Obviously, Twitter wants to censor that interview. I don't know why. Nothing controversial about it. So as a favor for me, please be sure to support Case Study QB and be sure to support these nurses that are on strike. I also want to bring up an article from Socialist Alternative by George Cohen. 7,100 nurses in New York City and several key hospitals have gone on strike starting at midnight Sunday for safe staffing ratios, pay raises that exceed inflation, and more. They are taking a stand on behalf of all frontline workers in New York City. Nurses were hailed as heroes during the height of the pandemic, but they have not been properly compensated for their effort, and their working conditions remain terrible, which also puts patients at risk. New York City nurses, hold on, let me go and pull this article up here. I apologize for not having this up here for all of you to see. Here you go. Again, folks, these nurses are going on strike because there is a system of abuse and negligence that's being run by the hospital administrators. It's the hospitals that cause this, not the nurses. The nurses are doing the right thing. This isn't a debate. It's a fact. New York City nurses at several hospitals, chains around the city have been in contract negotiations as all their contracts expired December 31st, 2022. The New York State Nurses Association claims that 99% of nurses voted for strike authorization on December 22nd. Tentative agreements were announced in some hospital chains, but at Montefiore or Mount Sinai, where the strike began today. Energy on the picket line this morning was electric. More than 1,000 nurses and members of the community gathered at the front entrance of Mount Sinai's main campus in Upper Manhattan to picket, march, and rally. Calls of "What do we want? Safe staffing. When do we want it now?" could be heard blocks away at 6:45 this morning. Before sunrise, hospital workers coming off the night shift immediately joined the picket line while dozens of bus drivers honked in solidarity. Way to represent New York City. Of the strike, one of the biggest in the strategic sector in New York City since the transit strike of 2005. One nurse said, "Today is the best thing that could happen to force their boss's hands and win a contract that meets their demands." So, folks, that's what's happening. And these nurses deserve support. So if you can, please share and support in any which way. Share their videos on social media. Please retweet. And we need to stand in solidarity with them. More importantly, if you live in New York City, you know any of these nurses, help out in any which way you can. Want to deliver bottled water or just stand in solidarity to support with them, go ahead. Because these nurses are putting everything on the line to fight for us. And Hard Lens Media gives them a salute all the way from Chicago. But New York City nurses, just to be clear here, Chicago style pizza is still better. But they're fighting for a better future. And that's what we need. We need to see more of that happen.